Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this podcast. For those who do not know me, my name is Zarkam Chima, your very own copywriter and the sales guy, and I'm also the co founder of Captains Limited. Today, we are going to talk about how you can grow and scale your Amazon services agency, specifically in the advertising domain. And to discuss this point, we have a really special guest on board who is Zafar Ali, the co-founder of Shock Advertising, and he will be sharing us with all the untapped strategies which nobody is sharing. So let's just invite Zafar on the stage, and there it is. Let me just check. Okay, I guess there's an technical error. Let me just fix it. Okay. I guess Zafar got. Just give me a second, and Zafar will be here. Meanwhile, we can just start the waiting screen again. So sorry for the disruption. Hello guys, so let's just start the introduction again. So for those who do not know me, my name is Zarkam Chima, your very own copywriter and the co-founder of Captains Limited. And today we have Zafar Ali with us, and Zafar, you gave me a mini heart attack. And the today's topic is all about how you can grow and scale an Amazon advertising agency. So Zafar, you got the stage.
Hello, everyone. I'm Uzaifa Ali, the founder and CEO of Shark Advertising, a PKR eight-figure Amazon advertising agency based out of Pakistan, which is also one of the most well-reputed Amazon advertising agencies out of Pakistan. We have been in operations for almost a year. We have maintained a 90% client retention rate, a 100% employee retention rate, and the best thing about us is that while we keep growing rapidly, our profit margins stay above 75%. And that is the main thing that we will be discussing in this podcast. It's not just about building an agency, it's also about building an agency that is very cash flow positive, an agency that can operate at profit margins that are twice, thrice as that of the average industry profit margins. Right. So that is something really important. And I will explain why that is important, and if it is important, how do you get there, how do you build that? So that is something that you will find in this podcast.
Okay, so Zafar, I have to make sure in today's podcast that you share each and everything. So you cannot hide anything from the audience. So the first thing is, was the main or secret sauce behind the client retention? Like when it comes to advertising, there are a lot of factors involved. There are a lot of complexity involved. There are a lot of complexity involved in terms of like the teammate, how you can make everything with every teammate, and how it's working.
Right, so there's one thing that you've mentioned, and that key term is client retention. Right, so a lot of people build agencies, they're focused on growing agency, growing the number of clients, and that is a mistake that a lot of agencies make, that they don't realize that an agency is as much or perhaps even more about retaining clients than acquiring clients. While acquiring clients is important, the magic of being able to retain clients is something that is just insane. I mean, the
Okay.
power that you have, if you can, if there's 10 customers that keep paying you $5,000 in total every single month, or having to find 10 new customers every 3 months that pay you that money, it's just very different. Once you
Okay.
have once you have that pool of clients that keep me paying you money over and over again, and you know that these clients are not going to go anywhere for 1 or 2 years, you just know that your agency is in really safe hands, and you know that every single client that I acquire on top of this is going to be just cherry on top, right? So you have 10 clients, and let's assume that you lose uh, 4 or 5 clients every 3 months, right? You
Okay.
might acquire 10 new clients, but you would still be at barely 15 clients, right? And the hassle that comes with having to acquire those new clients, getting to know their business, getting to understand their objectives better, getting to understand their niche, their subcategories better, getting to understand the competition better, and getting to understand their preferred mode of communication, their communication patterns, what triggers them, what does not trigger them. Understanding these things is just another hassle, right? It's just
Yeah.
sometimes so stressful to. I genuinely believe that the most stressful part of a project is the first 3 months. Those are hands
Yes.
down the most stressful. That is the most stressful phase of a project. And if you're constantly exposing yourself to that, while not having clients that can give you that safety cushion, because the first 3 months you do not know whether that client is going to stay or not. They do not owe you anything. They do not
Yeah.
have their trust built to be able to stick with you through the hard time. If the first 3 months are tough, trust me, they're not going to stay. But if they have
Mhm.
had 4 brilliant months with you,
They would never
they can
leave you.
still they won't give up even if they have another 3 months that did not exactly go your way or their way. So it's really important to make sure that you keep retaining clients, because that comfort that comes with retaining them, that peace of mind that comes with retaining clients is just insane.
Okay.
That is the emotional aspect of it. The financial aspect is just even bigger, right? So you have clients and you keep doing that. Now coming to the question, how do you retain clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, there is a very simple answer to this, and that is hiring right in the Amazon advertising space simply means
Mm-hmm.
training right.
Okay.
That is the secret sauce. Hire right is equal to train right.
Okay.
If you're starting an agency, you need to realize that as you grow, whether you're the technical partner, whether you're the non-technical partner, whether you're the COO of the business, the chief operational officer, or whether you're the chief executive officer, you will
Mm-hmm.
need a team. And ultimately, if you want to grow beyond a certain point, it is the team that is going to retain this client. It is
Yes.
that team that is going to do the majority of the work. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
beyond a
So
certain point,
I have a question related to this. How are you maintaining the point where your team is like staying up to date with every knowledge coming into the market? At the same time, they are completely involved in their working aspect as well.
yeah, so that is a brilliant question. I believe that one key aspect to that is either, all right, so when you're starting out, because this podcast is mainly about how you start and how you transition from a freelancer. When you start out, you won't have that leverage of being able to hire a research and development manager or a training manager. So you will kind of have to
Yeah.
do that role part time, right? But as
Mm-hmm.
you grow, once your employees become really trained and they're super occupied with operations of the projects and they're experienced to the point that they can handle it themselves. And whether you're
Mm-hmm.
the chief operational officer, whether you're the chief executive officer, you will have so much on your plate that you will at times barely get time to research new things. And I've been guilty of that too at times. But
Okay.
one thing that a lot of agencies need to realize is that once you reach that stage, you need to have a person whose sole job is to make sure that he's engaged in research and development, and that means within the agency and outside the agency. Outside the agency could include staying up to date on the new updates, on what Amazon is introducing it as advertising
Mm-hmm.
features, what other agencies are doing, networking with people, finding out what they've been doing differently, what worked for them, what did not work for them, finding out the secret sauce formulas of different agencies by having like good terms with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the research and development that you have to do within the agency is equally important, because that will help you while you're ongoing with the projects. And that could include
Okay.
going into every single account, talking to every single project manager and asking them what they have been doing and what worked and what did not work, and seeing if their
Okay.
analysis is based off some bias, right? So for example, we're handling a project, right? There might be a project manager, right, who takes
Mm-hmm.
that account. It was a $5,000 loss per month. He takes it to $10,000 in profit per month. Right now, that is brilliant improvement. But have you documented that improvement? Have you taken out key insights from that improvement that you can keep repeating over projects, that you can perhaps uh,
Mm-hmm.
use as cross learning across other projects? So you need to
Okay.
have a project manager that will go inside that account, see, all right, so there's a lot of sponsored display campaigns created inside this account, right? So what I see is that there's one account where we've been focusing really heavily on sponsored brands and the rankings don't seem to be moving. Another
Mm-hmm.
account, similar competition dynamics, but they've been using sponsored products here and they've been growing really well. There's a certain keyword that was not growing, and a project manager created this campaign, and he might not have realized that the creation date of this campaign coincides exactly with when the rank started moving on a certain keyword, right? So
Okay.
having a research and development manager who's inside and outside of the agency, and it's constantly building case studies for within the agency and outside the agency.
Mm-hmm.
And one very important point, making sure that he's recording them into videos that you can then include into your training programs, that your incoming hires can learn and benefit from. Because when they come in, if they're not getting insights from what the agency has done previously and how it did all of that stuff, how it brought all the results
Okay.
previously, you're clearly missing a point there. They need to know I mean, when you sit down with any new hire, if they do not know how this agency was successful in the last 10 projects, there's something clearly wrong with your training program, and it's clearly out of touch with practicality. So you need to make sure that your training program is practical and that
Okay.
it is covering what you've done in previous projects.
Okay, so now here I have a question. Let's say you have like conducted multiple case studies, you have a lot of videos. How sometimes there's like an immense amount of data. How do you evaluate which exact data do you need? Are you utilizing any sort of like file naming structure? Because sometimes you just forget you have this XYZ case study or this XYZ solution to the problem. How you are managing the whole chunk of data?
All right. So one way that we do that is that we do not segment that as topics, right? We do not
Okay.
segment our findings and researches as case study ranking. No, that is not how we segment them. We segment them as
Okay.
questions, right? We segment them
Okay.
as questions. For example, let's suppose there's an account. Let's suppose we were trying to target a certain brand keyword, right? Let's suppose we're
Okay.
competing against Oxo, right? And we're trying to rank on one of their keywords. And this is an actual case study, by the way. And
Okay.
we're like, uh, ranking on a brand keyword, example one, right? Now that is one way to put it. But when you start moving towards broader topics, when you start moving towards uh, a case study of an account where you went from being in losses to insane profitability, if you name that case study as from $2,000 in loss to $6,000 in profit, now that is something that is good stuff to post on Facebook, to post as a case study to get people's attention so they
Okay.
can start reading your findings. But that is not how you name it within the agency. You name it as how to achieve profitability in a niche, and be very specific with your titles, in a niche
Okay.
with low ranking juice, with competitors sending black hat attacks on your listing, right?
Okay.
That is one way. And someone goes there, and let's assume one of my project managers is stuck in a niche where he does not know uh, how to rank on keywords. He's struggling with ranking on keywords because the keywords are just way too damn competitive. The CPCs are really high, and he's also struggling with facing competition that have insanely good conversion factors, right? So their EBC is just
Okay.
out of this world. Their copy is just their copy is so good that it would give captains a headache,
Okay.
right? So that is one major
Okay.
problem, and you
Getting
name it as
it.
that, right? So you have to include the problems in the title. So the next time one of your project managers encounters a problem, you can link them to a case study that clearly mentions those problems and how you solve this problem. You don't need to mention the topics. No one
Okay.
in the agency is going to learn from ranking case study one. Ranking that is just
Yeah. So
absolute
this is what
stupidity.
I'm doing it. I have like a complete structure of naming. Like what's the problem? Like how you fixed it, who fixed it. Okay. So in case they want to get directly being connected with the individual who actually fixed that problem, and some other data, dates like dates and crucial other aspects. So it's in all those like small details which people usually skip and they think it's like useless and those sort of things. So it actually matters. So my next question is, what's your ideal client persona?
Right. So my ideal climate. All right. So, all right. So, I haven't narrowed it down to one. I've narrowed it down to three actually. Right. There's
Okay.
three type of clients that we deal with, and these are the three type of clients that every PPC manager, every PPC agency will have to deal with. Right.
Okay.
Uh, there's three clients that we like dealing with. One, who are struggling. Right. And that struggle could be they launched a brand, they launched a product, they're struggling with profits, and they need help. They're desperate for a good agency. Second client is someone who is doing fine, who is doing
But
really
they can
good,
do.
but they want to grow further, right? And they want to grow
Okay.
further. They're looking for someone who can take it further. Third, there's a client who is just starting from scratch. He's not struggling, he's not doing good, he's starting from zero, right? I rank them a certain way, right? So
Okay.
from among those clients, there's one specific client that I rank the lowest. And these, by the way, are clients that pay you well, right? So
Okay.
clients that are struggling, it's really hard to retain them for the reason that if they're struggling, the first goal is taking them to break even, right? And once you take
Okay.
them to break even, it's like uh, they're generally struggling because they're in a niche that is not really easy to compete in, right? And it's very hard to take them to a point where they can pay you a lot of money, right? Because they're struggling, they're
Okay.
really they're on survival mode, and if someone is on survival mode, they're not going to pay you a lot of money.
Yes,
Second is the
that's
client
the
who's
problem.
going to start from scratch, and if they're starting from scratch, uh, you can take them on, and depending on the budget, you could price it. You could start with, if it's just 1 or 2 launches, you could start with $500. If it's 10 launches every month, you could start with something like 1,015. So there is decent money there, right? So if you're doing things right, they would stick, right? So retention is generally easier with these clients, given that you do the work right.
Okay, so
Now
let me just
three,
sorry for cutting you out. Let me just clarify this point, because a couple of days from the last few days, I'm getting multiple questions on how we should like give quotations to our client, and the major problem which I'm seeing is majority of the people do not even know they are just giving the same quotation to every client. It's not making sense. It doesn't make sense
yeah,
that you are giving the same quotation to a
yeah, that
brand
is not
which
smart. Yeah,
which is growing, and the same quotation to the brand that like who's like literally just started. Let's say I have a like literally started with a supplement brand. They do not know that I have spent like $50,000 on a chemist. They do not know I have spent a lot of on the certifications and these are. I cannot spend like give somebody for launching $2,000 or $3,000 a
yeah,
month for launching maybe 5 or 10 products when there is no revenue in place, because there's going to be some one. Let's start with the images part and listing copy part. It would take somewhere around 15 to 25 days. Okay, then it could, and the remaining other factors would come. Then there's like the shipping and other factors as well. So you want them to pay you the same amount which you're charging to other brands
yeah.
for 2 months of work which you have barely worked. Okay, so this doesn't make sense. You have to make sure the prices you are giving is called offer creation, the concept of offer creation. If your client is not winning the game, you cannot win as well.
I
Okay,
agree. I 100%
let's
agree.
let's say if I have a client, I know let's say I've conducted his audit. I know he can perform really good. I did recently did with one of my clients. I knew that client can like achieve currently. When he came to me, he was like doing 20K a month. I knew he can go to easily go to 150, 170 per month, but he already spent a lot on some wrong agency, and now I know if I could like make things right, he will sustain, and he will sustain for a long time. So what I did was I like literally gave them my services of copywriting and design for free. I only charge them for the initial PPC. Okay, because the initial point, I cannot start PPC unless I have the designs and listing updated. So I did not want them to pay for that time frame. He didn't pay me. I gave him everything from my own pocket, and then when I uploaded everything within 10 days, he started seeing results, and within 3 months
One,
we were over 100K, and now he's more than happy to pay us whatever we want, and he's more than happy to even give me a visa to the states,
yeah.
and a lot of more other stuff, because
I mean,
now people. Mhm. Yeah, so
there's
now people
something.
must be thinking. Yeah, yeah, please
There's
continue.
one thing else that you did there that was really smart, and a lot of people won't understand it. So I've seen this. I mean, this session is mainly about Amazon advertising agencies, but there's agencies that provide multiple services, right?
Yeah.
Like Captain's Limited,
Mm-hmm.
copywriting and design. What people don't realize is there's a point where you upsell, right? What
Yeah.
a lot of people do is a listing will come over, and the agency does provide copywriting
Mm-hmm.
service and design service. What they will do is that during the audit, they will mention your copy is not right and you
Mm-hmm.
need a better design. We provide these services, you can buy them, and then we can start running your PPC. They do not realize that the client will think,
Mm-hmm.
especially given that if it's an agency from Pakistan, they will think that they are being scammed. They will think
Yeah.
that your audit is biased because you're selling that service, and by
Yeah.
quoting that as a problem, you're making money off the client. So you're ripping off the
Mm-hmm.
client. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of people don't realize is that there's more money in client retention, right? For example, you
Mm-hmm.
could have charged for the service, right? But you provided that free. Now that the client is there, you can upsell the service at a later point, right? You could
Yeah.
once they launch new products, etc. So that is one thing that a lot of people commit as a mistake, that they try to upsell their service way too early, way too early. I
Yeah.
mean,
So there's one point which one question is here which majority of us be thinking that, let's say if we are onboarded a brand and he has like 10 listings, and how they would afford the copywriting and design for all of the listings. What you can do is utilize the strategy of Alex or Mozy, commoditize your services. Simple as that. How you can commoditize? Commoditizing means that reduce is cost. What I have done is for the last 3 months, I have trained people from scratch. I've done it before, but separately for my own copywriting work, but not for the company. I've trained them from scratch. Each and everything they know all of my structures, copywriting structures, each and everything. Now I pay them a salary instead of paying them individually for each listing. Now it's like even if they aren't doing anything, I still have to pay them that salary, right? So even so in this case, if they are like working on 10 listings, it's the same. So what they are doing is, let's say they have an XYZ salary. Within that XYZ salary, they are doing all those 10 listings, both copywriting and design, and we are good to go. But the client thinks it's a job worth maybe we have saved them $3,000 or $4,000, maybe $5,000. So in their eyes is something really valuable, but at our end it's like nothing. We don't feel that. It's similar to like auditing report which majority of the companies are selling. Now I have to mention one thing. Majority of the clients don't even consider auditing as that much important. Like
Yeah,
let's say you have
100%.
yeah, you say get a free audit, everybody else is doing the same. Okay,
Oh,
let's
yeah,
say
auditing has
yeah.
become way too common. Way too common.
Mhm. Okay, so nobody cares because you have a simple one template. You just have to change all the screenshot, all the wording, and all done. So now the point is here, you have nothing to do at your end. Let's say I have a 25 page or 30 page auditing report. Okay, the client would be shocked that this guy has spent so much of time, so much effort. But at my point, I just had to add it over to one of my teammates and all done. So if you want to make your offer really, really successful, make sure your services, some of your services are commoditized. Let's say if you have an offer of saying we are companies with similar reputation, similar authority. Now you say I will give you free audit, okay? And I'll say I will give you free audit, and if there are any concerns related to copywriting, optimization, and design, I'll give you it for free. So now, do you think they would go for shark advertising, or they would go for
I mean, if they hop on a meeting, they still would. They still would if they hop on a meeting. So yeah, that is something really interesting because with clients you have to be like you mentioned commoditizing. I think Erkam has dropped out of the podcast. We'll wait for him to come back.
I'm back.
Yeah,
Can you hear
right.
me, guys? Okay.
Yeah, we can. Right. So talking about commoditizing services, Erkam, I think your camera is stuck.
Not sure, just PTCL.
All right, no
PTCL
worries.
backed off.
No,
PTCL backed off. You can just
no,
continue.
no worries. Yeah. So you talked about commoditizing services, and that is something really, really important. So I'll explain the third client persona and then mention how you price for each one of them, right? So one thing at our agency, it's like the meetings that I have took, the meetings that I have took over the last 10 to 11 months, I have closed every single client, right? So a lot of people will think, is he that great of a salesman? I mean, there's a pre-qualifying criteria, right? So you need to know your client persona. Once you know your client persona, your closing rate goes through the roof because you're qualifying clients in a way that before they hop on the meeting, you've put your time at that pedestal where you not just jumping on a meeting with every single person, right? And once you jump onto the meeting, it's really, really important that you know how to present your audit, right? So at this point, given that that audits have become so common, you need to know how to keep an audit short and precise and present it in a way that the client is just totally blown away, right? So they see that you have insights that no one else does. And then it comes to pricing. So that is going to be that major hook, right? So we have one client that is struggling. We have another client who's just starting off, and then there's a third client who's doing well. So these will generally fall in two categories. One is someone who's built a business to a really, really big level, right? So for example, an 8-figure seller, someone who's a 7-figure seller, and then you will come across some 6-figure sellers who are profitable, but they have almost built the whole business on their own, right? And they're delegating for the first time. These are people who generally really struggle with giving off their business to a new agency, right? So they've done PPC by themselves. They're coming over and they're not really sure if you can do a better job, right? So once you start pricing to them, you need to understand that if it's someone who's struggling, you cannot quote them a high price. You cannot quote them a price that will scare them off right at the start, right? So you have to quote a price that will over time allow you to charge more and a price that makes it easier for them. So you have to make it a more of a win situation for them at the start, and as you go on, you then start raising the prices as they start making more money, right? Generally, I like to stay away from such clients who are struggling way too much for the reason that one, they're already in a very negative mindset. Second, they cannot bring in substantial revenue for your company, right? So if you want to do it every now and then to build a good case study uh, to make sure that you're doing something that most people won't do, sure, take them on. But from a financial point of view, it does not make sense to take these clients on, right? The second kind of clients that are just starting, uh, you need to make sure that you price it in a way that is beneficial for you and for them. But you will have to compromise at the start because they're starting off. And if they do start off well, they will pay you a lot too. But you have to make sure that they first start off well, they see the results because they're confused. I mean, they do not know whether they will get those results or not, right? So when you start off with this is what I do, right? So I start off with a small fixed amount with a certain percentage amount, right? So if you're already overloaded with clients, I might just quote a slightly uh, more fixed pricing, intensive pricing, right? So I might quote something that is totally fixed, but I would make sure that it is something that still suits them at the start. And I would just casually drop a line that we can rediscuss pricing when you start seeing some results. So it is pricing that is not hurting me, but I have clearly mentioned that this is not the end pricing that we're going to be working with. Once you start seeing results, we will have to change this pricing, right? So that is really, really important. Throwing in that seed, insinuating that you will raise this pricing once they start seeing results, and quoting your reservation price, right? Starting with the lowest price that you're willing to work with. You might not be really happy at that price, but you're okay working at that price. Start off with that price, show results, and then raise the price when they start making some money, when they're sure of your expertise, when they have developed that trust with you. The third type of client who's already doing well and you see the potential for them to be able to do much, much, much better. Again, what I do is that I start with a very, very small fixed portion. Why? Because I know that this business is already doing well. I can add a percentage component here, right? So how bad can it go? And if I bring them results and I know that this business has potential, I can make much more money. So for example, let's assume that there's a business that comes over and it does like $100,000 in sales and they have, let's assume, a 25% total A cost, right? Now that business is operating at, let's assume, a 5% net margin. What I will do is that I will quote them something like $400 fixed plus, let's assume, 0.5% of the revenue, right? Uh, so
Okay.
so this is a business that is doing $5,000, $6,000 a month in profit, and I'm quoting them somewhere around 0.25 to 0.5% in of the revenue plus $500 fixed, right? So they're starting off with $750 to $1,000 and monthly payments to me, right? And this guy, by the way,
Okay.
comes, yeah,
Sorry for
just
cutting you. Now I have a question here. So how are you evaluating that revenue percentage? Because sometimes I have seen that the agencies get greedy. They are specifically I have seen like Western agencies do this. They have written fixed amount. We need like 5%, 8% of your revenue, and sometimes they are like we need 2% or 8% of your PPC ad spend, which I think like it doesn't make sense when it comes to Amazon because you already have like margins razor thin. Your margins are razor thin, and
yeah,
how are you evaluating your revenue percentage?
yeah. So that is one concern that a lot of clients have. A lot of people, I've seen people quote 4-5% of revenue. I mean, if you're quoting 4-5% of revenue, you have no idea that you're quoting a higher price than even Western agencies. Like honestly, that is way too high. A lot of those agencies even charge you like what 2 to 3% of your revenue, 10% of ad spend or something. So if you're an agency that is operating out of Pakistan, and if you have expenses that you're bearing in PKR, the
Okay.
max you can go is 1% of revenue, right? So the sweet spot is generally 0.25 to 0.75% of the revenue. 1% too can get a bit too high. Only quote that to businesses that are already doing really, really well. And you know that you can almost double their size, right? So if that business is doing really well, you know that the total A cost is already really solid, right? So when big clients come your way, clients that you can charge percentage pricing from, there will be two types of clients. One that are doing a lot of revenue, but their profit margins are rather thin. one that is
Yes.
doing really, really solid revenues and their profit margins are really high too. So the total A
Okay.
cost, and they want to reinvest that profit into growing. And then there's one business that wants to optimize profitability and then grow. With this business, you keep it between 0.25 to 0.5% of revenue. That is generally what I do, and it works really well for me. With
Okay.
businesses that have really solid profit margins and they just want to reinvest, let's assume that it's doing like $20,000-$30,000 a month in profit, and they want to reinvest that. I know they have
Hmm.
money, right? So I will quote them 1% because I know that they would be willing to pay it. It's still better pricing than Western agencies. I'm still getting that competitive advantage of being a third world agency that has quality that can match up to those agencies. So that is generally what you have to look at. You have to look at the profit they're already making and then quote something that aligns with that.
Okay, gotcha. So how, if you're if I believe you're also like keeping yourself low in the start, how are you maintaining that 75% overall profitability in your agency?
Yeah, so that is the key question, right? The key question
Yeah,
here.
yeah, not leaving it.
It goes back to yeah, no one believes it until they see or PL sheets, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go back to the same thing. If you're operating a specialized agency that is only offering one service,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the key source is hiring right is equal to training right. So you simply need to understand that what a lot of people do is that they rush the training part, they rush the hiring part, and what they end up
Mm-hmm.
doing is that they end up being in a position where the core is not really strong, right?
Yeah.
So I'll start with the financial view, and then I'll expand into its logistics. So one is that
Mm-hmm.
you need to realize that you can literally do $20,000 a month in revenue from
Okay.
five employees, right? If you have
Okay.
employees that are really, really, really well trained, who can literally
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they retain your clients for you, who have quality of work that almost matches up to what you are doing,
Mm-hmm.
they can retain 4,000. I mean, if you have five employees and each one of them gets paid somewhere around 2 lakh PKR, right? That's like almost $1,000, and they
Mm-hmm.
are retaining client revenue worth $4,000 for you. You only need five such employees. You do not need a whole ass office with 20 employees, 30 employees, people running around. At that point, you stop managing the clients and you're like, oh, I've delegated, and now you're managing the employees, right? So you've
Yeah.
gone from one sort of time hassle to a new time hassle, right? And again, there's so much expenses that come with it. A lot of agencies, what they think is that if we have 30-35 clients, that puts us in a safer position. Why? Because let's assume we have 30 clients and we have like, so let's assume there's two agencies. There's one agency
Mm-hmm.
that does $30,000 in revenue at 20% margin, right?
Okay.
Then there's another agency that does $10,000 in revenue at 60% margins. Both of them at the end of the day make the same profit, but there's
Mm-hmm.
there's an underlining there, right? And that is cash flow. What a lot of people don't realize, they think that if you have 30 clients where diversity or revenue is diversified across more clients, right? And when that revenue is diversified across more clients, they think that they're in a safer spot when they're actually not. Why? Because you're still the as the number of clients grew, you also grew your number of employees at that same rate. You were not
Yeah.
building systems the right way. You thought the solution was hiring more, not hiring right. Now, what has happened is if your clients today go from 30,000 from let's say your clients, some of your clients leave, right? And you, because generally when you reach that level, there still will be like what 20% of clients that bring in 70-80% of your revenue, 20 to 30% of
Yes.
the clients. If one or two of those clients leave, now you're suddenly in a spot that you have employees that almost lead to like what 20,000, $21,000 in expenses because you were operating at 20% margins earlier. That meant that you were operating at what $24,000 in net expenses. And when those employees, those clients leave, you will have to cut down on
Mm-hmm.
expenses to make money, and that could mean firing employees. And trust me, a lot of times you lose clients. It's not just your employee's fault. You will have to cut down from somewhere. You'll either have to fire people, and trust me, excessive firing, especially when you're a really, really early
Good.
startup, can cause a lot of employee demotivation. It can kill employee
Mm-hmm.
loyalty within the agency. Right now, all of my employees know that I would protect them with my life. Right? Your employees stop trusting you. They're like, if he loses a few more clients, he will fire us. They get a better job elsewhere, they will go there. They get hired by a foreign agency, they will go there because you're not able to protect them as much. So what you need to
Okay.
realize is that, and there's one more thing that's really, really important. And
Mm-hmm.
once I've highlighted this financial thing, I'd like to take a bit more time with this because this is like the secret sauce here, right? There's one agency that is doing $30,000 in revenue at 20% margins. There's
Okay.
another agency that is doing $10,000 at 60% margins. Which
Mm-hmm.
agency is more likely to go bankrupt financially?
The 30,000 one, because at the same time he has more expenses as well, more employees.
100%. So one thing that is really, really important. I mean, there's a lot of people who come to me and they're like, do you want to raise money? Do you need someone to invest with you? I'm like, I don't. Why?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's assume my agency, for example, it runs at 73% net margins, right? And this is before I withdraw my salary. So once I withdraw my salary, that's only 10 to 15% of the revenue. But the general EBITDA before I take out any money, what I can call that I've made this money is 73%
Mm-hmm.
of the revenue, right? At that
Okay.
73% of the revenue, that means that my profit is 3 times more than my expenses. So every
Yeah.
single month, I do not take out money. I am saving up money equal to 3 months of expenses and let's just assume that at some point things start going downhill, the industry starts declining, demand for Amazon advertising goes down. I have so much cash reserve, we can always pivot as an agency to a related similar service, right? Let's
Mm-hmm.
assume there's another agency. They do like what, 20% margin. They will have to save 4 months worth of of profits to just cover 1 month's worth of
1 month.
expenses. So they will always be short on cash reserves. Whenever they try to grow, they will have to take on debt. They will always be taking on financial burden. Now the clue, and now the main thing here is, and this is something that I would like to take my time with, is you need to
Mm-hmm.
have the right employees. And how do you get the right employees? You do not simply hire them. If someone comes to me and tells me, oh, I have the perfect eye for hiring, I know how to hire a person, I can look at someone and tell if he's bullshitting. You just cannot hire uh, the right fit simply on a 15-minute interview. You need to have
Yeah.
a very, very, very thorough training program. I believe that a training program does not just have to be thorough, it also has to be competitive. And that is our secret sauce. Every
Yeah,
time I have to
I
hire
still
one,
remember. I still remember that you took like a 3 months break when you started your hiring, and you told me you would
yeah,
be giving me one or two of your employees, and you never did. I still remember
yeah,
that.
100%. So what I had in mind was I was like, if I can just find two right people, they can do what I'm doing right now. And once they do what I'm doing right now, I can always scale beyond what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So if anyone has watched Pursuit of Happiness, there was a really beautiful lesson in that movie. They had 30 interns and they said that they would pick one intern. And the amount of effort that Will Smith had to put as the character in that movie to get selected, because he knew it's
Mm-hmm.
competitive. You cannot just go through being a bullshitting intern. You have to put in the effort. And that is something that I believe a lot of agencies need to start doing. If you plan to
Yeah.
hire one, if you plan to hire one employee, get 100 applications. Out of those 100 applications, take 20 interviews. Out of those 20 interviews, hire, take on 10 people as interns and tell them that this internship is competitive, right? 2 months, I will
Mm-hmm.
train you. And after those 2 months, uh, I will evaluate the two employees that I want to keep out of these 10. And that is how,
Mm-hmm.
in those 2 months, you will evaluate how does this person think? How does their mindset work? Are they driven by greed? Are they driven by purpose? What's their income goals? Were they lying in their application? Were they being truthful? How quick does this
Mm-hmm.
learn? How quick does this person pick my learnings? How quick does this person respond to clients? How do they operate? Now that could be either
Mm-hmm.
you're training them hands on, or you could be taking on 10 interns and you have a really solid automated recorded training program where they go through the videos in
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks, and then you start training them on projects under your direct supervision. In either
Okay.
case, the time that you take on and the time that you give to them to prove their worth is where you see which intern is worth it. Now, I wouldn't like to take names, but when I conducted the internship, there were clearly some interns who were not putting in as much effort as some of the interns. Some interns were just
Okay.
blowing me away. I was like, this person has potential to become better than me, and I already have a few team members who sometimes blow me away with the PPC suggestion. I'm like, I couldn't have thought of that. They sometimes bring results that I was like, when I was a freelancer, when I was a solo freelancer, all the reputation aside, there was something that I wasn't able to do, and they're able to do that. And that is the beauty of being able to have a competitive internship. So
Okay.
hire less, make sure that you're really, really filtering through the employee, because it is a long process. But once you've gone through that, so let's assume you start an agency. First 6 months, you have two
Mhm.
employees, and those two employees can retain clients worth $4,000 because you've trained them, you've picked coal, and you've turned that into diamond. They
Yeah.
are practically a replica of what you used to do. They live your advertising philosophy. You train them from scratch. They think like you. They know how you like to how you do audits. They know how you go about solutions. They understand SOPs well. They're obedient employees. They're smart employees.
Mhm.
First 6 months, all you need is two employees, right? Two
Okay.
employees, they're handling $8,000 worth of revenue. Next 6 months, you have two more employees. They're handling $8,000 worth of more revenue. Next
Okay.
next 6 months, you have just one more employee who's handling $4,000. Before you know it, it's 18 months, and your agency is doing $25,000 in revenue, which is what, 50 lakh, half a crore in
Yeah.
Pakistani.
Yeah.
And you have four employees who are handling that at, let's go a bit high, at $1,500 per month a salary, right? That is what, $6,000 per month in expenses. You
Yeah.
still have $14,000. Right? Sorry, it's five employees, $7,500 worth of expenses, and you have $20,000 worth of what revenue, and you have $12,000 that comes in profit. You are operating at 60% profit margins. You're away from bankruptcy. You have clients that you understand better. You have
Mhm.
employees that give more time to your clients. You don't have things rushing around. Your client got used to a certain employee. That employee left. A certain client left. You do not struggle with employee retention. You do not struggle with client
Mhm.
retention. Before you just need five people to be doing $25,000 per month in revenue. twenty thousand
Okay, so
dollars per month in
let's
revenue.
say let's say if you have like limitation of resources, let's just consider my city. Okay, now I have like a huge like limitation of resources. If I will tell five interns that after 2 months of like training, I'll be only hiring two people out of five. I believe five of them would literally leave. All five of them would leave. That it's not worth it because what I have seen so far is that people are not that much confident. They are not willing to put that risk. They are not like willing to put like 1 month or 2 months of their life. And you still remember when you invited me to Lahore to your office when you were training all your people. And I was really amazed that you have five really like reliable people. And you
Yeah,
still, I'm again going to mention it. You promised me you
very
would give
reliable.
me one or two of them, and you never gave them to me. And I still have that in mind. And now the problem is how, let's say I have a limited resource, how should I still apply this formula into it? Should I not? Because let's say if I'm hiring a graduate, they are like literally when they can spend 16 years to learning something, but they are not willing to put 1 month or 2 months that would actually bring money. So it's hard to like convey all these factors. So how do you think I should manage this?
Yeah, 100%. That is a hurdle that comes with it. So what you have to do is, uh, the one
Mm-hmm.
solution to that is that you have to make sure that your internship outline, and I do not mean the
Mm-hmm.
content of the internship, but the internship. So there's two things, right? So you will see a lot of people in this ecosystem and outside the ecosystem who are wanting to get into Amazon, who just want someone to teach them in a way that no one else can, that no course has,
Okay.
that no one else can. Now, that is a major requirement. So you need to understand that when you're
Mm-hmm.
hiring, you have to brand yourself as an employer who's fulfilling that requirement, right? And one really
Okay.
important thing to understand is that when you're starting a training program and an internship training program, you have to make it very transparent right from the start,
Mm-hmm.
before even that. So what I did, I really placed it right at the top of that application form, that this is
Yeah.
how it will be. You will come in. Do not expect to make quick money. I will test you for 2 months. I actually even took money from them for the internship,
Yes, I
which is
still
the kind of,
remember.
yeah. So
Yeah,
I
to
was
remove
I
all, it was a barrier to
yeah
entry. Like
yeah
only the like the
yeah
interested people
one
would come.
100%. So what you have to do is that when you have so many applicants and you took like 20 interviews, even if you pick five people, you still have 15 people that you can still pick from, because a lot of people will very closely miss out. They still have that
Mm-hmm.
potential. They very closely missed out, right? So one of our interns, I literally just called him on the last day because one intern dropped out, right? So what you have to
Mm-hmm.
do is that once you pick those interns, You have to talk to all of them and see what timing suits all of them. So one of them might already be working a job, someone might just be
Yeah.
graduating, someone might be a student. So you have to pick a timing that suits all of them. I talked to all of my interns. I was like, all right, so this is the timing that seems to suit all of them. Right. So this does not slightly suit this intern, but that is a compromise that he will have to make. Right. So 2 months it was. And one other thing that I did, apart from just from making clear when they will start making money, was that I asked them, what money do you expect to make in 1 year? Because again, the model that I'm operating on, paying
Mm-hmm.
your employees a good salary, right, paying them a six-figure salary is not an issue, because you're already
Okay.
operating at such high profit margins that that them being happy, them being content becomes more important than just guarding that extra profit margin, right? So
Okay.
that is not a problem. What I did was that I asked them in the application process, what money do you plan to make in a year? And when I shortlisted them for interviews, this was something that I discussed with them, and that was, all right, so this is the amount of money that you want to make after 12 months per month, right?
Okay.
And this is the roadmap, right? So 3 months, first 3 months, you'll probably be working at this salary for hire you. The next 3 months, this is the salary that you will probably be working at. The next 3 months, this, and the 10th to 12th month, you will be at this level. After that, we might
Okay.
shift to like a percentage payment on top of that. This is the amount of
Mm-hmm.
fixed salary that I can afford. This is the person. So you have to be really transparent with them. Uh, the salary expectations, my team had already communicated them to me before they started working with me. So at
Mm-hmm.
least for the first year, none of us had to worry about what salary they're getting, because if I'm doing my job right, I'm bringing the clients in, I'm bringing the systems right,
Mm-hmm.
and if they're doing the job right and they're retaining clients, there is no reason for me to not give them the promised raises, right? So that is something that is
Okay.
really important. So you have to filter them through, right? So if someone drops out, you always need to have that backup. So if you've interviewed 20 people and you've picked 5 or 10, you still have 15 to 10 people that you can still pick from in case an intern drops out, right? So also, the point of filtering through that is, even if someone drops out, that is not as big an issue. So I see dropping out as a failure of that intern. So one failure could be not being the best one, two, three interns out of that training program. Another
Mm-hmm.
failure could be just dropping out, right? So if someone drops
Okay.
out, they simply failed, right? So they didn't waste their 2 months, just went away. Someone spent 2 months, they couldn't get through. But one thing that benefited them was that they spent the 2 months and they got knowledge that will help them later, right? So if I
Yeah.
look at the three interns that, out of the six, three interns that are not working with them, they still are in pretty solid position. One of them is a core team manager at a really solid, really well known agency. One of them is working as a performance marketing manager with a very well reputed MNC or something. One of them,
Mm-hmm.
he was pretty young, so he's working on his own things, etc. So all of them are in pretty solid places because they got that knowledge, they got that exposure, that learning, right? So
Mm-hmm.
uh, and one thing, even if you hire one or two people, you can always go back to your interns. If you had a good relationship with them, you can always rehire them. So one of my
Okay.
portfolio manager, core team members, I literally rehired him 4 to 5 months after we had started Shark Advertising. So
Okay.
having a closely knit training program where you can connect with people and not just where you're going like go fill in these Excel sheets, go just do that or something. If you have a training program where you're actually teaching them to be really high value consultants, you will develop that bond with them, that they will respect you and you will always respect them and their suggestions.
Okay.
The one
Okay.
thing, one last thing, the one thing that I literally sometimes get frustrated with my team is that you're
Mm-hmm.
not replacing my roles. I have never had to feel insecure over the fact, oh, they're replacing what I do, or they're getting better than me. I literally tell my team
Okay.
that if you're not better than me at Amazon PPC 12 months from now, given that you're working on operations more than I do, there's
Yeah.
clearly something wrong with how you're going about projects.
That's a wise word. So let's just start with the questions, and we have a couple of them. So, say Sulman is asking, if clients say give guarantee on PPC result, then what word said to that client?
Yeah. So if a client asks you for a guarantee on PPC, one thing is that you're dealing with the wrong client. You have to tell the client, uh,
Mhm.
and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's end of the world and that client you just have to lose that person off. Sometimes it could be because of a certain fear, and you could address that in a when you, and that is where you have to change their mindset with your communication, right? So if they're asking you to guarantee PPC results, uh,
Mhm.
you've either not qualified the client as someone you can bring results for. If you genuinely believe that you can bring results for the client, you can tell the client, this is what I think could be done. This is what I think that realistically could be done. You could slightly underscore that, and you can clearly make sure that I do not give any guarantee, but here's my refund policy. If you do not feel satisfied with how I am working, right,
Yeah.
I will just simply give you a refund for that month within 15 days of that month, right? So you do not give a guarantee. What you can do is that you can guarantee a refund, right? So you can say that we will try our best. This is what we project can be done. This is a past project that where we have done this. If you do not have a past project, have them run through a roadmap of how you plan to bring success for them. Tell them that this is the plan. You will try to execute it, but then again, there's so many factors that can go out of control, right? That are not really in your control. We cannot control the results. What we can control is that the money that you're paying to us won't go wasted, right? So if you do not
Yeah.
feel satisfied with the work with the communication, we guarantee a refund. So that is
So
what
you're
we guarantee to
putting
them.
the collateral at your end instead of putting the collateral at client's end.
100%, yeah.
Okay, let's just. So, what's your strategy to approach those clients? I guess the persona-based clients, even through freelancing platforms or through your strong branding on social media platforms for producing content.
Yeah, so that is a question that a lot of people ask. I think if people are watching this podcast, they would know there's a reason why a lot of people engage in so much content marketing, because it is still the number one way to get clients. Content marketing
Yeah.
could be going out there and without expectation, be a giver, right? Go there without any expectation, help people, right? Help
Yeah.
people, go out there. I mean, I started the group and I was not expecting any of the members to be my clients. One thing is that I generally do not take clients from the group for certain reasons, right? But what started happening was a lot of group members started referring other other potential prospects to me, and I was like, where are all these prospects coming from? They were like, oh, you have this certain person who's a member of your group, they referred me to you. I was like, I've never even talked to that person, right? So just go out there, give value without expecting anything, right? You started for example, Arkham started a podcast, right? Now he might just be going day to day. He does not know whether one day that could go in front of the eyes of someone who
Yeah.
could perhaps offer a deal to an extent that he had never imagined, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, number one, content marketing. Number two, before you go out there and uh,
Referral.
start, splashing your hands in water, build good relationships with your clients. If you have a seven-figure client, trust me, he knows other seven-figure sellers. If you have a
Yeah.
six-figure client, he knows other six-figure sellers.
You got a
Build a
lot
good
of friends.
relationship with them, and again, that is why a good training program is important, because if you're just acquiring clients, losing clients, acquiring clients, and you're growing by acquiring clients only, you will never have a relationship good enough to get referrals. If you have clients that get really really customized specific attention, and you go and ask them, do you have someone you could refer to me, someone that you could send over to me, uh, they would be very very happy to help, because they would think that this person is so valuable to my brand that if I send a referral to them, they would think of me as a higher value client. I would get more attention from them. I will always be one of their
Yeah.
high priority clients, and they would want to do. So number one, content marketing. Go out there, comment on LinkedIn, interact with people on Twitter, comment in Facebook groups. Do not sell yourself, just go and help people.
Yeah.
Number two, ask your clients for referrals. Trust me, these two sources are enough to build your business's roots, right? Once you've built that, the third is business development. Cold outreach is the next biggest lever that will grow your
Yeah.
account, right? So
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 let
so
me, sorry for stopping here, and let me just figure out this point. Scout code outreaching is good, but the problem is it's too cliche. I get like cold outreaches every day on LinkedIn. I do not respond to any of them. And the problem is there is no effort in those cold outreaches. Everybody is just like putting a template, and I literally, it was a couple of days back, a template was sent by a really reputed company. It was sent directly from the CEO, and I was quite pissed because it was a copy pasted template, and it included information which I which didn't existed. So I literally wrote that you have to change your team, etc., and you have to do it. And he was apologizing that why he sent me that email. So you have to actually show some effort. You might have seen like I really love Western YouTubers, American YouTubers. Okay, the point why I like them, they actually go an extra mile just to do strong networking. You might have seen a couple of months back, a guy started a series in which he had to deliver a penny to Mr. Beast. So if a new YouTuber, let's say if I'm being featured in one of the Mr. Beast videos, he got 100 million subscribers. Even if I'm getting zero point 0.1 conversion rate, that's like insane. So
Yeah.
what he did, he had only one penny. He earned everything, earned and survived on that one penny. Okay, he was getting featured on televisions and everything. At that time, at the same time, he started a fundraising. The goal of that fundraising was to generate 50K in the whole time span. And when he delivered that penny to Mr. Beast, he generated $2.3 million. So the goal was 50K, and he generated $2.3 million because Mr. Beast has such an immense engagement and followership. If he uploads one video, you are good. And his subscriber level of that guy literally got 120% increase. At the same time, if you see other YouTubers, some of the YouTubers like literally made bought a car GTR, painted it in Pikachu, and gifted it to Logan Paul. Logan Paul is literally the most, like, I guess, the smartest guy here so far. He started a new company called Prime. It's a drink along with KSI. So that drink, it's literally like maybe 2 months right now, and it's giving hard, tough time to Gatorade. Gatorade is a worldwide brand, and there are many predictions that in the next 1 or 2 years, Gatorade will be purchasing Prime at a valuation of $2 billion. So that guy made a brand, established it, grown it, and in 2 months to be up to $1 billion company. So they are actually putting effort to get recognized by those brands. So I recently figured out this thing, and I'm utilizing it to pitch people currently for my podcast, and it's working. It's working. First, I crafted a pitch for InMail, sending people on LinkedIn, and it was converting, but the conversion rate was not above 50%. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm not going to release it right now. It has over 85% conversion. They cannot just resist me because I'm putting so much effort into it, and they are feeling obliged by it. They are under the concept of reciprocation. They think that they literally owe me something. Okay, so they have to be on that podcast with me. So first thing is this. Second thing is, if you are into content marketing, don't be too hasty. I'm not expecting anything from these podcasts or any funnel for the next 6 months. Okay, and at the same time, your funnel must be logical. I cannot upload the same post on Facebook, same post on LinkedIn, same post on TikTok, same post on Twitter at the same day, at the same time. It won't make that sense. You cannot, because the 80% of the audience would be same all over the platforms. So if a person is commenting on LinkedIn at the same post, he won't be commenting on Facebook. Okay. So you have to make sure that your funnel is so strong, so logical, that there is a lot of engagement on everything. Okay. So you have to make sure that your funnel is 6 months long. Currently, I'm at
Yeah.
my beginner stage. I'm training people in the branding industry because I cannot just handle each and everything. So they are starting with my branding, and I have created a whole funnel for the next 6 months. I know what I have to do in the second month, what I have to do in the third month. But because at one point I would have so much authority, even if as a like an Asian, I am pitching somebody for 5 grand a month, they would give it to me because I have like a lot of people to back it up. I have a lot of engagement to back it up. I'm literally available everywhere. Currently, what my focus is for the next 6 months, I want everybody to hear captains, and I'll make that happen. I know how to make it happen because I'm not going for anything basic. If I'm going for what I've seen so far, people just take their decisions like that. They do not know what they are doing with their videos. They do not know what they are doing with their branding. They do not know what they are doing with their content. I literally have like tons of design swipe files in my phone. I know which design work, which design doesn't work, which copy work, which copy doesn't work, which funnel would work, which funnel wouldn't work, and I have multiple options available. which would even, let's say I've gone bankrupt. My company has gone bankrupt while funding my all my crazy marketing branding ideas. I have still like tons of backups available that can, even in one day, if I implement them, they would recover each and everything. Let's just start with an example. Let's say I have figured out a problem. Yeah, so let's say I've started an ebook, created an ebook, created an ebook of Upwork. It creates each and everything from profile setting to proposal, each and everything, every minor detail on which I focus, every proposal, working proposal I have with all the logical representation. Do you think if I launch it, nobody would buy? There would be hundreds of purchases, even if not thousand. And it could easily, even if I sell it at like $10, it would literally save me from my bankruptcy. And I have many other ideas as well. So you have to make sure if you're getting into content marketing, you have to make sure you have a foolproof, logical funnel and nothing. And so the next day you won't be saying, yeah, what should I post now? If you go to LinkedIn, the problem is everybody is posting, everybody is into like personal branding, but they are not personal brands. 50% are just women who are just posting their pictures and the caption does not relate with the pictures. Other 30 or 40% is just posting basic stuff. And nobody wants to read or go through or engage with that basic stuff. Okay. And only the 10% people are going for the real stuff. They are studying books, they are creating case studies, and they're literally sharing everything. So you have to go with the concept of share everything and sell the implementation. Share the process, sell the implementation. Follow it, and you will start seeing immense results. Let's forward with the. It got too long. Let's forward with the other question.
There's just one thing that I would like to talk about that's very specific to before I answer you Zed's
Yeah,
question,
sure.
going back to the traffic thing, right? So with Amazon ad agencies, what I see is that people sometimes overcomplicate, right? People
Yeah.
overcomplicate, right?
Yeah.
The traffic strategy that we're using is insanely simple. By traffic strategy, I mean client acquisition strategy, right? So for a lot of Amazon ad agencies that are starting out of Pakistan, content marketing generally at a very starting stage when you haven't built a personal brand, because most people haven't, right? So you can't just rely on your
Yeah.
personal brand to get clients at the start. 95% of the people do not have a personal brand, right?
Yeah.
So what content marketing at the start would generally get you the small clients, like $400 client, $300 client, $500 client, right? And it's fine. It's fine to have those clients because initially you need those clients to start generating some revenue, right? Once you have those clients, you then start, once you have that stable base, you know these clients are not going anywhere, you retain them, you make money off them. The next step is where you start hunting clients that would, from like each client would generate substantial revenue, right? So
Okay.
content marketing. So this is my advice to all Amazon ad agencies. When you're starting off, free value in comments, helping people out, and reaching out to local agencies to outsource their projects to you at a commission is going to be your easiest way to get projects. Content marketing too sometimes can get difficult because groups have started becoming really strict. It's really hard on LinkedIn at times.
Yeah.
One thing that would help you a lot is start networking with other agency owners, Amazon ad agency owners, and start taking projects from them and give them a commission on it, right? So you handle everything at the back and they take 20, 30%. This will help you get off. Once you have gotten off, once you start build some cash reserves, and you can even afford to lose some of these clients, right? The next step is where you start going towards cold outreach, right? So the next step is where you start going for referrals. Referral will generally get you clients of all sizes. Now, this is what we do with cold outreach. When we do cold outreach, I'm not putting in that effort to go and get a small client. So
Yeah.
cold outreach could either be you going on Upwork, right? So you going really aggressive on Upwork, but then again, Upwork will have brands and projects of all sizes. What we do is that with cold outreach, we only target mega brands, right? So a brand that would potentially bring in $3,000, $4,000, $2,500, $2,000 per project. And what we do is that we do not just go and try to hit hundreds of brands in a day or 20, 30 brands in a day. That's not what we do. All you need to do is target 2 brands, but make sure that you email them, and you start getting this hang of cold outreach. When you start doing it, you'll realize, all right, so
Yeah.
a long email doesn't work, a short audit works, a short audit doesn't work, a long audit works. And you will figure out that what sort of cold outreach suits your style. When you start reaching out to these brands, just reach out to one or two brands, right? So if you're talking to 30 brands a month and you're closing one project per month out of those 30, you're adding $2,000 per month in
Yeah.
agency revenue. Over 12 months, that compounds to $24,000. 12 months down the lane, you'll realize you do not need cold outreach. You just need one referral each from all of those 12 clients to add another $24,000 in revenue because they will refer
Yeah.
brands to their size. So cold outreach, only do it for big brands. A lot of people make this mistake of doing email cold outreach, LinkedIn cold outreach for mid from small brands, right? For $500 once. No, set your base right from the easiest way of client acquisition, content marketing and agency referrals, right? Other agency referrals, and get to that five, six, $7,000 per month revenue stage at 60, 70% margins, right? Build those cash reserves, have 30, 40, 50 lakh Pakistani rupees in the bank. Now you know that you can afford the expenses for a while. You can afford you can afford the salaries for a while. Your clients are not going anywhere. One or two might go away, but majority of your clients are going to stay. And this is when you're like, right, we zone out from the business and the project managers handle the projects. I will handle the strategy. I will overlook the strategy, but my full focus is going to be on cold outreach and building the right systems for it, figuring out what sort of cold outreach works with the brand that we have built, and then doing it the right way. Yeah. On to
Okay.
Zaid's question now. I think we've gone
Okay.
pretty extensive with that.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just exaggerate a little bit. Actually, put some effort in those cold outreaching. Let's say if I have a brand and you are outreaching me with a generic email, I don't give a damn about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if somebody is like outreaching me and they have a detailed Loom video in place along with an attached audit link which highlights each and every problem I have, that's something I would like to hear about more. Okay, because that company has actually put some effort, or that individual has actually put some effort into it. What I teach everybody: do not go for too much quantity, go for quality. You just
Yeah.
you,
One.
let's say you yeah, let's say you have two employees, and those two employees have a capacity of handling two each. Then why the hell are you sending thousands of emails? Why not just focus on those 20 or 30 clients
Quality over
out of which,
quantity. Yeah.
yeah, out of which even if you have like a 5% conversion rate, it still covers your needs. So
100%.
so
Uh,
don't be
someone,
an
so-
so don't
someone
be
just,
a snowflake.
someone just made a brilliant comment, and that is, uh, give out the secrets, sell the implementation. And I think that is
Yes.
one brilliant way to put it, right? So,
Yeah.
so when you do cold outreach, when you reach that stage that you've built that base, five, 7,000, $8,000 in monthly revenue at 60% margins, the
Yeah.
next step is you start reaching out to those big brands. But when you reach out, do not send in 30-page long audits. No one cares about your sob story, right? Send
Yeah.
in 1 or 2 pages and condense your secrets that you would not give out to anyone. That you're like, if they hand it over to some other solid agency or their current agency, that agency could get ideas that could make them successful. Do not be afraid to give it out, right?
Yeah. Nobody's going to make
Have
it.
have an abundant mindset. Again, this is the best way to put it. Give out the secrets, sell the implementation. And when you give out the
Yeah.
secrets, you do not need to write 30 pages, right? So
Yeah.
that is something that
So
I had to learn over time.
yeah, so if you create a 25-page audit report, 30-page audit report, majority of your clients won't even be reading them. So first you have to make sure that all the important points are in yellow highlight or some sort of highlight, and rest is just your authority. You just that 25-page audit is all about your authority. Okay, so nobody's
100%.
gonna read it. So yeah.
One thing that I used to do was that every time I would make an audit, because generally your audits, sometimes, given the scenario, can get pretty long, right? So 25, 30 pages does get normal. What I do is, I know the client doesn't have time. I mean, I wouldn't read that long in audit. So what I do is that I write the summary on the first page, and
Yeah, scope of the project.
I mentioned that this summarizes the whole audit. If you want to look at a specific part, you can go down in order and see what we've detailed on under that title or heading, right? So the
Yeah.
client goes through the summary. If they don't get a certain point, they want further elaboration on that, they can go down that. Just sets such a great tone for auditing. It shows your attention to detail, and it doesn't waste the client's time either. So do not just make a really big audit with a summary at the end. Put the summary at the start. If they want to read further, they would read that.
Just learn the concept of how to write a research paper or research report. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
And APA formatting. That's it. So let's just start with Zach's question. Do you have way of projecting future sales based on historical data and seasonality on Excel?
I could go into that, but this question slightly strays from the topic that we are on. So I would say that we move on to further question. Uzair, this is something that I would cover in some of my other more technical
Mhm.
videos, because there are plenty of technical videos that I'll keep making. This is a whole topic that will require 30-40 minutes, right? So
Okay.
more agency related question.
Okay. So Sundar asked, please explain how to do defensive asset targeting. Not that much related to the topic, but
Yeah.
if it could be like 1 to 2 minutes if
Yeah.
you have, if you could
One to
answer
two
it.
minutes. The best way to, if you have multiple products in your catalog, the best way to do defensive ASIN targeting is sponsor display VCPM, for the reason that you do
Mm-hmm.
not pay for the clicks, you pay for the visibility. So you bid higher, Amazon will give you multiple sponsors. So generally, there's a sponsor display spot on the right under the listing, then above the reviews. This 6, 7, 8 sponsor display spots. You can occupy all of them with one campaign. SDV CPM works
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. You will get a 1-2%. Yeah, there is some sort of cannibalization. People would say that organic sales get attributed to that, but that doesn't matter. Your goal is to make sure that you're occupying all the fortresses at as low a cost as possible. So the real A cost might not be 2%, it might be 20%, but that doesn't matter, right? That is one way. And then again, there's with a defensive ASIN targeting. SP is another way, but it obviously wouldn't get you a lot of spots. SDVCP
Okay.
is something that would get you multiple spots with one product across the page if you have a limited
Mm-hmm.
catalog. If you have a wider catalog, just occupy as many placements as you can with SP, and with STVCPM, you can occupy multiple placements with just one targeting type.
Okay, so we have another question from Zach. Do you use any tools for the audit for the big accounts, or you have set up your own Excel sheets with macros?
Uzair, trust me, if you know how to use Helium, Data Dive, and Excel, right? That is more than enough. And generally, what we do is that when I audit clients, I mean, everyone has their own way, right? Some of my teams prefer more data-intensive audits. What I do is that when I do an audit, I do not. There's very little data component in there, right? So what I'm selling is the strategical mind that resides inside here, right? So pick those strategical parts and then just put in really relevant data. You don't need to go in there and create macros. I mean, no one, trust me, no one cares about that. Pick
Mm-hmm.
strategy that is clear, that is very actionable. When the client listens to that, he's like, why did we not think of that earlier? And just put in 2, 3 rows of Excel data that backs it up, what you're trying to say,
Mm-hmm.
and put it there, right? So sell the strategy, run the client through over what strategy you plan to implement. Anyone can go in there and create dashboards. They can buy a $10 tool and create all sorts of pretty dashboards. You're not doing anything special there. So Helium 10 Data Dive is enough to audit the data. With most sponsored product reports, sponsored brand reports, if you know how to use filters in Excel, you'd be able to filter them, go through the reports in no time, right? So you just need to know what you're looking for, sell the strategy
Mm-hmm.
more than
Okay.
selling charts.
Okay. So my question is from Chima. Please guide us how to learn copywriting from basics to expert level. Please share some useful links and stuff related to it. Okay.
They have
So
they
there's no
haven't
fixed
gone.
answer.
I
They
think
haven't
they
got.
haven't gone through. Yeah, they haven't gone through your
Yeah.
profile.
Okay. So the first thing is that you cannot
lazy,
learn
lazy.
copywriting unless you
Uh,
if you are willing to spend like 20 grands a year. There's no fixed way to learn copywriting. If you have 20 grands, go to Justin Koff or Stefan Georgie or similar people who are like A-list copywriters. If you don't have it, just purchase numerous books. Okay, start writing, write for at least a year, and then you will start seeing some good change in your skill set. At that in meantime, you can sell your services as well, but do not expect any good results before a year. Okay, second thing is you have to create a swipe file. Create a swipe file for everything. You must learn the art of evaluating a working copy. You must learn the art of evaluating a working design. A designer, designing skill set is good, but majority of the designers doesn't know how to actually like design a craft, a post that actually engages the consumer, especially the newcomers. So you must have a swipe file for each and everything. And I do not have any specific links for studying. I just go all raw. Everything I like, I just keep on studying it.
There's one thing that I would like to add to what Urkam is saying. Because
Mhm.
copywriting is something that has been a passion of myself. I keep sharing my copies with Urkam often, and it's like
Mhm.
one simple way to at least get yourself started with copywriting and not wait 1 or 2 years is go and watch videos of salesmen closing people
Yeah.
and watch videos of them breaking down closing of a sale. Specifically, watch videos on objection handling. Once you understand how objection handling works, you will start writing copies that will start catering to objections. At the most basic level, that should be enough to get you start generating some results with copies. And then you'll realize the 10 different form of copies. But at the most basic level, if you know how to handle objections, you can write pretty solid copies.
Okay, so the purpose of reading too many resources or going through too many resources is then you would be able to immediately write anything. Let's say yesterday I gave a really good title headline recommendation to Zephyr, which he denied. And I knew it would work. It would be appreciated by Zappa. So, so there's another question. My question is from a consumer. I'm a corporate and Amazon service provider. I have two gigs on a Fiverr, one PPC and one description. Yeah. So you can, if you want, you can go for free of cost, but you have to make sure that you are not spending your own time on it. If you're like spending, your main purpose is to increase the sale, and if you're just solely working on the design and copywriting element, you won't be able to scale it. Make sure you have somebody who can handle this for you. So there's Vijaya for a PPC advertising agency. What should be the key metric we should be optimizing for? Meaning, depending on the client growth, profitability, and maintenance, how does that metric change?
Vaji, this is a question that uh, your client would answer. Trust me. Ask the client, do they want growth? Do they want profitability? I mean, if it's a business that's coming over and they're like, what, operating on a 3% margin, doing like $100,000 in revenue, they would want profitability, right? First, they would want that optimized profitability. If you come across a business that is doing $80,000 in revenue and has like a 10% total ACOS, they would want growth, right? uh, there's really any business that wants maintenance. Trust me, at the most basic level, every business wants to grow, no matter what stage they're.
Okay.
They either want to grow their sales or their profit. So maintenance does not exist in PPC management. It's either growth or it's profitability. By growth,
Yeah.
specifically revenue growth. So ask the client. They will tell you what is the key metric you should be optimizing for.
Okay. So there's Amar here. Amar, if you're testing these interns, what about the work they are doing? You pick two and leave 8 out of 10. Won't the work will be disturbed after the leave? I guess you have already answered it because he's not like entirely burdening them with each and everything. So even if they leave, Zapa still has some space to give it to the top two he has selected. So I guess it won't require
Uh,
a,
I I think his question is slightly different. His question is that won't the work? So he's thinking that if I hire 10 interns,
yeah.
I am giving work to all of them, and when 8 of them leave, two of them staying behind. But so no, that's not how it's going to work. With a training internship, what you need to do is train them theoretically according to how you approach, right? So everyone has a different theoretical approach. Someone would like fixed base, someone likes down only. Train them according to your approach, right? That is why I prefer interns who are learning from scratch. Train them according to your approach, and then make sure that once they're thoroughly trained, whether that is through a recorded video system, whether that is through in-person training, then shortlist further and start training them on projects, right? So the second month could be that, the third month could be that, and once they start maturing, so you don't take on more work for them. You first test them on the current work, and once you've hired them, that is at the same time that you start making efforts to bring in more clients, right? Generally, if you have more clients, you would have to obviously overload a couple of old employees until they're ready to take on that workload. So you do not bring in workload worth 10 interns. Just bring in workload worth 2 interns that you want to keep, and see how those 4 or 5 work in a team, because working in a team is also a very important skill that you would need to observe during the internship.
Okay, so I'm just asked how to join someone with your vision so they do not leave when they get better option and sticks with you in long term.
Oh, very simple, very simple. Have a training program, as I mentioned, that is thorough, that filters people through 100 applicants, 20 interviews, 10 interns, two employees, and two employees who, by the way, you've already communicated with, and you understand the income goals. So you know that out of those 10 people that I was training, they are not only motivated by money. Everyone is motivated by money to some extent, You ask them what their financial needs and goals are, and you meet them, right? And you make it very transparent, right? So with the model I mentioned, you ask them, all right, so 1.5 lakh a month is not fine with you after 12 months. What are you happy with? He's like 2.5. You're right. All right. I'll take you to 2.5 months, but this is what you have to achieve for me. And if you can
Yeah.
achieve this for me, I promise I'll take you to 2.5 months. If you can train the next project manager in a way that he can take on this much amount of work, and you can maintain this amount of client retention within your portfolio, you're making me enough money because you're bringing in new valuable employees for me. You're retaining my clients for me. I'll take you to 2.5. Set goals. All right. Here are your goals. You meet them. I'll meet yours. Right. It's a two-way
Okay.
thing. Ask
Okay.
them. Just be
But
very, very
nice.
transparent.
Simon asked, at what point of journey you should plan to hire and start journey to agency?
When you're overloaded. That's a simple answer. When you're overloaded, first of all, right. So what a lot of people do wrong is that they start right. So we're starting an agency. How many clients do we have? Three. Oh, I'm thinking of transitioning to an agency. Have enough work first. So I believe that one really good way to do it is overload yourself. You're working 12, 13 hours a day, then hire someone as an assistant. You do not train this person, but you just train them. You have them run through some Google Meet meetings while you're doing work. You teach them the clerical work, and they start filling Excel sheets and doing all that clerical work. They take off this 4 or 5 hours of your day, so you go from 12 to 8, 9 hours a day. You're doing the more important work. They're doing the less important clerical work, and in those 4 or 5 hours, that is when you start a training program, right? So you need to do it when you're overloaded with work. That is what I did. I mean, I took a slightly more risky approach. I didn't hire an assistant. I just transitioned to a training thing. I kind of paused my services for like 2 to 3 months,
Yeah.
and then during
I was astonished at why you took such a risky move,
yeah, that
and
that that
but you
that
did
required
it like
a lot.
I guess you
That
did it
required a
like
lot of
on purpose.
confidence. A lot of.
Yeah, you
I
did
did
it
it
on
on
purpose
purpose.
because you knew that you have nothing else to go for, and the only way is to go forward, and there was
100%.
nothing to go backward.
Well, you
So
can see
it's also really good psychology.
it's so crucially important to know that working solo, I mean, lone wolves, they die alone, right? So recently when I caught COVID plus malaria at the same
Yeah.
time, which is something that you mentioned in the title, I actually mentioned this to my team. I was like, if I was working as a lone wolf, I would have lost half my clients right now because I was not in a state to work for 10 to 14 days. I was so sick that I was like tired to the point I couldn't just, I couldn't take a call. I was that tired. And I was like, I would have lost all these clients, at least half the clients, if I was gone for that many days, especially the
Yeah.
smaller clients, right? So you need to realize that I kind of realized that early on that I might have 10. I was working with around 10 clients, and I was like doing what $3,000 in like monthly income, and I was like, so I have 8 to 10 clients. If I have an accident today, if I get really sick today, I would lose all of them. So why not just? I mean, I picked my best clients. I was like these 3, 4 clients take a lot of care of me. One of them, Arkham and I worked with it, and I was like, I'll just keep these 3 clients. I'll end the project with all other clients. I was already very overloaded. One factor was I kind of wanted to test my client acquisition skills again. I was so lost in the operations. I was like, I hope that doesn't get rusty. You need to learn how to get new
Yeah.
clients. So stay in touch with that skill. So that was pretty risky.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend that. Always have an assistant. Have a more transitional approach. I took a very abrupt approach. I mean, if you're really brave, if you have balls like I and Narkam do, sure, go forward with that. But
Okay, so your
that's it.
teammate is sharing some of the secrets and he's doing it on purpose.
I don't exactly remember who made that. But I'm pretty sure whoever made that didn't like that. I know for a fact that Mujahid doesn't like making reports, but I guess that's the curse of this work.
So he just took some revenge from you. Okay, so let's just go forward. Today's advanced technique is tomorrow's obsolete exercise. This is why proper giving away does not make you poor, but a better person giving. Okay, so this is like an answer. Here's a cycle in the right spot.
There's one thing that I would like to add to that. When you start actually giving away knowledge, I've said that so many times. If you understand sales really well, go and start telling your friends about that. That pressure of not saying some dumb shit is something that will make you reflect upon your thoughts. And when you start reflecting
Yeah.
upon your thoughts, it starts refining them. I've learned more PPC by teaching that to people than learning it from others, right? So I might have a training session with my agency, and I'm like, God, I cannot go wrong with that. Arkham might be going
Hmm.
live to say something about sales and closing. He wouldn't go wrong with that. When 2 3 years ago, when I fell in love with sales and closing, I would go and tell everyone about. So if someone says that to you, do you know what to say to that? That is not the right way. Telling people actually refines your approach, right? So
Yeah.
talk, read, write, and refine your approach. Keeping it in is only going to make it rusty.
Yes. Yeah. So I prefer those teammates who actually questions me. So I know I cannot just give them like a tireful answer. It has to be worth it. So if they ask me, "What's the reason why you gave this?" I have to sound like a professional. I don't have to make a fool out of them. So this is extremely important to share your thoughts with people who actually have their own like opinion.
I
What's
I
that
love
mean?
that. I mean, what often happens at my agency is this. So one of my team members from the core team is also my joint lead strategy. So what used to happen was when he was just a core team member and not the joint lead strategist too, that he would often mention a technique, right? So uh, I would like I'm not sure if that would work. We could test that, but I don't see a lot of. And then it would like I've already tested that and it's already bringing results. Now would like that's the right way to do it, right? So you have to be brave. If there's not enough opinions being voiced in the room, you're clearly struggling. But while that happens, there's one principle that we work by and all great companies work by that, and that is alignment over agreement. So everyone should voice their own opinions, but there needs to be one person who makes the final decision, right? So for example, I say let's try this strategy, and some other core team manager is like, no, I don't agree with the strategy quite a bit, but if I'm so adamant on that strategy, alignment is more important than agreement. Proving yourself right is not as important as making sure that the agency is operating with unity, right? So, for example, if a core team manager is operating and there's an assistant core team member or an assistant project manager, and he starts disobeying what the portfolio manager is saying, that has like a ripple effect, right? So alignment over agreement, whenever you're building your agency, repeat alignment over agreement in every training session, because that is the most important thing to scale an agency, because as the number of employees start growing, you will start struggling with
Yeah.
what's going on.
Okay, so some ask what books do you recommend to read for enhancing your sales page and related to things. So first of all, instead of reading books, what I would prefer is join good sales related groups on Facebook and Reddit. Okay, and those groups must have strong engagement because such groups have those sort of like confident people. They would be literally leaving working copies or lead closing pitches in the comment section. I have got an immense number of like copies that would actually work from Stefan and George's group, and there are other groups as well that can help you in gathering such data. Second thing is if you want to learn like from a book, just go to Google, write best sales pitching books, best lead closing books. Extract each and every book, read the preview, download the PDF of the ones or buy the one which you like the most, and start reading them. That's it. There is no specific book. If XYZ book is working for me, it's not like necessary that it would work for you as well. There are massive number of like aspects involved. I still remember, Zephyr, you gave me a negotiation related book. You told me about, referred me to me like read it. I couldn't read like 3 pages of it because the font type was too thin, the spacing was
Was
too low.
was,
Yeah.
was it never split the difference?
Yeah.
I think it was
That's
that.
that one. That one. So I
It is
couldn't
one of
read
my
it.
all-time favorite books. Yeah.
Even though I got it like shipped from the US. Still, I didn't read it because it wasn't making sense for me. Okay, so you have to make sure that which book you like. Please,
There's,
okay.
there's, there's one thing that a lot of people can do, and that is uh, you don't need to be a sales master. You just need to understand the objection that come at your business. So, for example, Arkham might be a brilliant closer, but if you put him in an industry he has no idea about, he would struggle with that. So, for example,
Yeah.
a real estate client will have very different concerns than an Amazon advertising client, and a copywriting client will have very different concerns. So, understand the objections that clients might have with you. The general
Mm-hmm.
objections are your price is too high. That is one of the most common objections. Second is we're not sure about the results. Third is what if this doesn't work out, right? So figure out the major objections and then talk to other people about how they deal with that objection, right? So that's one way. Another shortcut is instead of books, Instagram Reels are one brilliant way to learn sales, right? So go and follow certain sales pages that make quick short reels on sales, right? So they will make a video like a client comes in and he's like, your price is too high, and then they start negotiating. 15, 30 seconds, you start consuming that content. Within 30 days, you will understand so much better how to deal with objections, right? So
Yeah.
Instagram Reels, just fill your Instagram Explorer up with such reels, right? So you have to manipulate the algorithm in your favor. Do that. And secondly, just understand the objection. So I know the five objections that 95% of the times I get met with those five objections, and I'm sitting like a tiger there, waiting for that objection to come. It's like that objection. I'm like, right. So now we're talking, right? So understand the five objections. If I suddenly shift to real estate, that wouldn't work, right? So I don't. Sales is not a general thing. You can be a specific niche salesman too, right? So
Yeah.
understand the objections in your niche, deal with that.
Okay. So Haika has a really I've seen that at this point so far. Would you prefer searching for our product on Amazon every hour after running PPC? Expert says it's good for ranking. Is it?
Absolute bullshit myth.
I don't think it would work. It's like
Nothing to do
illogical
with that.
for an algorithm. If this would work, people would actually create thousands of IDs and with
Software and
multiple
do
VPS on it, and there would be a new black hat strategy in the market. I don't think there's any such sort of like
I,
strategy in
I
the
mean,
market.
if her question was that does searching for it every now, if she means, if she means tracking your ranks by manually searching every hour, I mean, you don't necessarily need to do that for most projects. Checking them at the end of the day in Helium 10 or in a manually maintained sheet is fine. But if you do plan to check it every 3 hours or so, because sometimes it can become important in highly seasonal niches, especially when things are very dynamic, they're changing every single day. Some competitors coming in. Seasonal niches can get a bit too dynamic. Just for those 2, 3, 4 months, hire a data entry intern or something, and all they have to do is every hour they have to go and update ranks against certain keywords, right? So for the most important products, just delegate for a while. You don't have to do it
But
yourself.
but but still, but still, reviewing your listing after some time doesn't increase your ranks because if
Yeah,
it would,
that is true.
let's just say Amazon gives you higher rank based on your sales, okay? And if you just keep on increasing the impressions or keep on clicking it and there are no sales, Amazon would consider it as
Yeah,
negative because if you
100%.
are if you are clicking on it from 10 different IDs and you have received 15 clicks and no sales at the same time your competitor is getting like one order at 4 or 5 clicks, Amazon would prefer them over you. So this whole concept isn't like correct
100%.
logically.
There's one question from Hamis. I'd like if you feature that. That is really
Uh,
interesting question.
Hamis, let me just check. Is it's better to pay?
No, where do you see yourself as an Amazon agency owner in next 10, 15 years?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so I wouldn't talk about 10, 15 years. One of the reasons is that I think I'd probably be too bored in 3 years to continue with Amazon advertising. I think I'd probably shift to uh, some other industry in like 3, 4, 5 years, max 5 years if it's still around by then. But I'll tell you what I plan after 3 years, and that is that build an agency that is really stable, that is not dependent on you because you had again a really solid training program, right? So 3 years down the road, I'll probably I have three profit targets, right? So once I hit a certain profit target, I would sell off 30% of my equity, right? So when I hit the next profit target, I would sell off another 30% of my equity. When I hit the next profit target, the final profit target, I would sell off 20% of my equity. So by the end, I'd only own like what 10% of the agency, and I'd have a salary in the agency, and all of the functions are automated and stuff. Since the agency is mainly built off a personal brand, so I won't be able to completely detach myself with it, but I would still be overlooking things to a point. It's taking 8, 9, 10 hours per week, but yeah, uh,
Okay, so
it,
you have like
it,
mentioned a really good point. Can you please, oh, yeah, please continue.
yeah. So generally, it's like it's very hard to stay with something like Google Ads or Amazon advertising for more than 3 4 years, with most people who are entrepreneurs, they would generally get bored by
Yeah.
just one skill, right? So unless it's, I mean, if it's copywriting, you can keep share transitioning between 10 different sorts of copywriting, right? So you could become a copywriter that is brilliant in
Email.
one niche, and yeah, like right, you could go from email to direct response to something else to like website copies and stuff. Like
Mhm.
you can keep, but with
Okay.
Amazon PPC, where will you go here?
So you have discussed a really good point that if the agency is built on a personal brand, okay. So what you can do is people actually forget you if you do not post or if you do not retarget them for like a month.
We've
Let's
been
say
there.
if Pepsi starts stops advertising, uh, Coca-Cola would literally take over them. Okay, so let's say if I started a brand over a personal brand, and some people are saying you cannot get out of this, you can literally get out of this. What you can do is first start with the personal brand, and eventually start putting your team into everything. Like if you have YouTube videos, if you have your own reels, if you have your own posts. So, but you have seen Stephen Pope, what he did, he came up with a huge burst of personal branding. Now what he's doing, he's bringing his own like chief of acquisition or chief of operations to YouTube videos and those sort of things. Now what he's doing, he's pulling himself out, so people won't. It's like people won't say to him, "Why you are not personally working on this project?" He don't
Because
want to
it's
hear it.
transferring its followers across the team here.
Yeah. So I have a question from Furkan as well. A question for Zafa. What comes first, clients or team building? Because there's no point in acquiring clients if you do not have a trained team to deliver. What was your approach toward this chicken egg problem? I guess you have answered it.
Yeah, we have pretty much already answered that.
Okay. So hi, Tabriz, hi, Arkham. How we can make our agency a brand name? I'm
Uh,
not sure.
uh, the Braves, one thing, how can you make your agency a brand name? So you do not necessarily, I mean, it's good to have a personal brand. It's good to have, so what you're referring to is marketing. If you have
Yeah.
a sales system that is set up, really, marketing is when people know who you are, right? So you don't necessarily need that. That does help. But if you still have a really, really solid sales infrastructure, that you understand that when a client comes to you, how do you convert that client, that prospect into a client, you will not need to worry about a brand name. Yes, so some things can help. Having certain badges on offer can help. Having really really solid previous client referrals can help. So that is enough in
Testimonials
B2B.
as
That,
well.
yeah, B2B, that should keep get you going. Once you start building off the roots, then you can go towards marketing and stuff. I mean, running ads and stuff. But initially, even if you have a personal brand, it's very easy because you can just market that through your personal brand, right? So with Shark Advertising, I simply had to market myself and that marketed the agency. But generally with B2B, sales is fine, right? If you know how to convert a client, how to get that client, how to reach out to clients, that could, we've already discussed the three main methods. You're good to go.
Okay, so I guess this is it. These are all the questions related to the podcast. There are some questions related to the PPC aspect as well, which I think would be more suitable for some other session. Now I'm a bit tired. I guess this is it. Do you have any last words to share before we end it?
The last word to say is train hiring right is equal to training right. That is
Okay.
all of it. If you have good employees, they can retain your clients. If you have good employees and you understand your employees and they understand you, they will not leave you. They will retain clients for you. They will allow you time to relax sometimes and think about bigger things. And and one more thing, that when you transition to some other business in the future, you will still have this valuable set of people who understand how to build great things, right? So
Yeah, nice.
so just make sure that you hire right and you train right. That 100% is one of the most. One more thing that I would add there. If you have a train that is very well trained, you can become an investor quicker than you realize. So what I was able to, given that I was working on a lot of projects myself, and it's it's sometimes curse of knowledge, right? So it's very hard for you to imagine that someone will be able to do a PL project better than you, right? If you have a really really solid team, well, to the point that you're like their opinions and suggestions sometimes better mine, you literally have working partners ready to work with you, right? So all you have to do is save up. You have so many cash reserves because if profit margins are high. You're like, all right, go start an MPL business of yourself, start a PL, and I will invest with you. I will bring on board an investor. So you become a joint investor, or you become the solo sleeping main investor in that MPL business. And before you realize, you had an agency that was bringing in money, and you have a brilliant team that is now bringing in more money for you through the second income stream, the third income stream, right? So building a right stream will help you even outside your business. Right now, the second income stream that we're building on is also through my team, and they're doing the project. I do not have to worry because I know that if they're working on it, it's literally just me working on it. So
Okay, so I guess that is it. And so far, this is the biggest hit. We have like 80 people stick to us, and I guess this is it. Would be seeing you some in some other podcast, Zafa. So thank you so much
100%.
for joining. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Perhaps
And
perhaps something on pricing and negotiation. I think that is something that we would absolutely
sure,
nail.
sure. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Bye bye.